Tonight's special segment, Mob Gas, Gasoline. Last night, NBC News correspondent Brian Ross reported that organized crime now has muscled into the gasoline business in a big way and cheated the government out of hundreds of millions of dollars of tax dollars. Tonight, Brian reports on some of the ways that the mob uses those dollars.
Lock it up. Roll sound.
Last year, something very strange happened in movie making. Actors were hired, a director flown in, cameras set up.
B-marker.
And big production scenes were shot on location in Miami Beach for a movie that has never been released by a production company that nobody had ever heard of. And the movie's producer was a man every police detective in New York had heard of, Michael Franzese, said by police to be a young, tough boss in the mafia. And now one of the men authorities say was closest to Franzese is locked up in a federal jail in New York and is talking about why a mafia boss set up a movie company. The government's informant is Larry Irizzo, convicted of tax and mail fraud, who says Franzese's movie company was really an elaborate front, just one of many front companies the mob used to hide millions of dollars from a new mafia racket, gasoline. This was Irizzo 6 years ago, at his desk at Vantage Oil, a big New York gas station chain, that he now says he was running for the mob. Authorities say Irizzo is a financial genius who figured out how mobsters could make a fortune by selling huge amounts of gasoline and then keeping for themselves millions in gas tax money due the states and the federal government. And for years, no one caught on, not tax collectors, not the FBI, because the mob was hiding much of its gas tax money here in Panama. Using a phony American passport, Irizzo traveled to Panama under the name of Salvatore Matthew Carlino and set up front companies that were able to get licensed in the United States to sell gasoline and to collect gas taxes. When American authorities finally figured out what was going on, they found that tens of millions of dollars in missing gas taxes ended up here in the accounts of Panamanian companies located in this building. For example, Houston Holdings, one of the mob's most important front companies. Company records show the president is somebody by the name of Felix Short. We found Felix Short in the small town of Santiago, Panama, where he was making his rounds as a traveling hardware salesman. Short says the only thing he knows about Houston Holdings is that he once got $100 to sign his name on some documents in a lawyer's office where he was a clerk.
Well, I'm Felix Short. That's what I know.
But have you been to Florida to work in the oil business?
No, I've been never in the United States.
Never in the United States?
Never.
What Felix Short of Panama didn't know was that this man was going around Florida calling himself Felix Short. His real name is Charles Yingst, and authorities say he is one of the New York mobsters now charged in Florida with stealing as much as $40 million in gas taxes using the mob front Houston Holdings. Robert Dempsey of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
This has an impact on every one of us who buys a gallon of gasoline. We're lining the pockets of an illegal activity rather than having that money going to our schools and our highways and our law enforcement and the other kinds of things that we need as a society.
And some of the stolen gas tax money has apparently gone into a political campaign fund. NBC News has found that at least 5 companies, now identified by authorities as mob fronts, made contributions to a campaign fund for New York Governor Mario Cuomo. Federal witness Irizzo has told authorities he was ordered by his mob boss, Michael Franzese, to write a check to the Cuomo campaign. And New York State election records show contributions from Houston Holdings, LaSalle Petroleum, Northbrook Assets, CMC Corporation, and Future Positions Corporation, all on November 15, 1983, and all for $1,000. The governor's office said Cuomo would not be available to talk about the contributions. In a letter, a spokesman said the governor did not know of the contributions and that they were, quote, unsolicited and had no bearing whatsoever on the actions of the Cuomo administration. The spokesman said New York State had taken, quote, vigorous steps to put gasoline tax evaders out of business. All 5 companies that gave contributions have been put out of business and are now under investigation by New York State and federal authorities. In the last 5 years, organized crime has made a staggering amount of money in the gasoline business. By some estimates, $1 billion or more. Much of this has been done in the middle of the night, with mobsters making secret deliveries of mob gasoline, stealing the gas tax money, and hiding it in front companies set up all over the world. Gasoline is a heavily taxed item in this country, and in many places, what was intended to be a tax for the states and the federal government is now a mob tax. Brian Ross, NBC News, New York.